It's Late Night Lori from Lori's Little Bit of Craftin. I am coming to you at 11:13 p.m. Thursday, June 26th. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States coming to you from Wisconsin, and I'm a little closer to 11 o'clock than I have been all week, I think. So hopefully somebody will hop on here with me and watch live. Let me get my cord out of the way maybe. It's always fun to have, pardon my reach, it's always fun to have people join me so that I can interact and not feel like I'm just talking to myself. But I was pretty excited. I think last week actually, I received my Extraordinary Flora washi tape. Now I had ordered the Extraordinary Flora bundle, which was the stamp set and the dies. And for some reason, I thought the bundle, which is usually just the stamp set and the dies, somehow I thought my washi tape was coming with it, and I didn't order this originally. By the time I realized it, this was out of stock. It's now back in stock, but the bundle's not available. So hopefully that won't deter you from considering that you might want this if you don't already have it. So we're going to do, this is a card that I did just using the stamps and the dies. And what I did with this one was I kind of created just kind of like a designer series paper. I used my blending brushes, added some color, and then I stamped the image on that, and then I used the die to cut it out, and that's how I ended up with this. Okay, and I used an embossing folder to just add some texture to part of that card. So tonight, I thought what I would do is just try to make a card. Let me get these other things out of the way. Try to make a card, but I'm using the Floral Impressions 12 by 12 designer series paper, and I'm going to use I think this sheet because there is what appears to be some Darling Duckling in here. We're going to see. We're going to play with the washi tape in a couple of different ways and see how it works out. Now, there. I knew I had cut some, just some white cardstock. That's really pretty too. So I think we'll just go with what I started here and see where it takes us. So I have a card base in Azure Afternoon. So that's my 8.5 by 11. I score the whole sheet at 4 1/4, and then I cut it at 5.5. So I have 2 card bases, one for now, one for later. So we'll go ahead and get this burnished and set up. And then what I also did was I cut a couple of layers. One in my basic white and one in the Azure Afternoon. And what I want to do is cut this across to have kind of like, I don't know, just an inset so that I can put this in here. And then when we put our Extraordinary Flora stuff in there, that might look good. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this, and we're just going to cut it kind of random, and just this Azure Afternoon layer. So if it sits like this, I want my angle to go like that, so I'm just going to kind of lay it sideways. And then what we can do is take off, I don't know, maybe about an inch. An inch might be a little much. Let's go to 3/4 of an inch. And all I'm doing is I'm just moving it over so the straight edge is on these grid lines on the trimmer. And we'll see how that looks. So if this is here and this is here, we might want a little bit more showing. Let's go ahead and cut. Let's start with a 1/4 inch off of this other side and see how that looks. I think that'll be good. All right, now this I could save to put a sentiment on. And then we'll need to put this in here because this is kind of how I wanted it to look. And then we'll add the Extraordinary Flora on there. So I'm just going to cut this kind of here. So that'll kind of give us the idea. We may not even actually use that piece. I might want to go with something else. We'll see. But once we attach it, we can trim it off the back. So let's work with the washi tape. So we're just going to set this aside. We could actually glue that white cardstock on so that we don't have quite as many loose pieces. And I'm just using the Tombow multi-purpose liquid glue. Very light layer because a little bit goes a long way. And I made it so that I've got about a 1/4 of an inch there. That looks pretty good. All right, and then these pieces will save to attach later depending on how it all looks when we start to put it together. All right, so let's set this over here. You like my little thumbs up? When we were traveling, I found that. So I thought, oh, that's great for YouTube. If you like my video, give me a thumbs up. So the Extraordinary Flora, when it comes, there's a label on each end. The label on mine was pretty loose, and there's actually a perforated section on here that you can open the package with. All right. So I shouldn't have to fight with it too much, but I think I want to maybe keep this label. But I've got, well, I probably want the other label because that's got the number on it. I can always write it on there. But anyway, I think I'll hang on to that. So here is this washi tape. And I just have to find which way the end is here. So this washi tape, when I saw it, has more of a pink section and then more of a section that's got purple hues. So let's go ahead and put this on here with the pink section. Look at how much that makes it pop when we put it on the white cardstock. And then I think I'm just going to trim this right here, because then we're going to go to the purple hues. And I've seen this done on white cardstock, and I've seen it done on colored cardstock as well. So what I want to do here is we're going to experiment. So this is all nice and smooth. This is like 3 inches wide, 3 1/4. It's 3 1/4 inches wide. And what I thought we would do is accentuate these images on here with the stamp and see how it looks. And with this stamp too, it's pretty large, so you need a larger block. This is my F block, but there are actually some holes in the photopolymer. So it doesn't get air bubbles in it. Lost my train of thought there for just a second. So let's go ahead and try to line this up without having my head directly over it. It's a little bit of a challenge. I probably should have put my Pearson mat under there, but I didn't. So let's keep our fingers crossed that it'll work out all right. Okay, let's take a look. Oh, that is pretty slick. Let's see if, now that came off. And I wonder if I'm going to have to use StazOn, because that, let's see if we can just give it a minute to dry. And I'm going to go get, oops, I'm going to go get another piece of cardstock and see what color might go good with the more purple hues. I'm thinking maybe fresh freesia. Or let's try bubble bath. Let me just cut this down. All right, so Memento doesn't work because it's lifting right off of here, which means because it's kind of glossy, it means I'm going to need probably StazOn for this. So let's just wipe this off so we can do that over. Well, I'm making a little bit of a mess here. All right, now we'll let that dry. Live and learn. All right, so here we go. Lost my train of thought again there for a second. So let's try this on the bubble bath. And I want to see how far this design goes. So it's supposed to match up with the stamp. So that goes here. So it actually stops right here, and part of it I put on this other strip. So next time what I'll do is I'll pay attention here, and we'll go from the leafy section to the other leaf section to here. So just until the pink hues stop and the purple one starts, that's how long it is. So let's see how, it's like 5 1/4 inches. So keep that in mind. So you need a 5 1/4 inch strip. All right, so let's just put this on here. Now look at the difference there with the bubble bath behind. Very different. And I guess we wouldn't even really need those outlines on there, but I think it would look pretty cool. So let me get some StazOn. So I have black StazOn and the saddle brown. I'm going to try the saddle brown just because of the Darling Duckling or whatever color is in there. Let's just see how this looks. Now I know a lot of people don't like to use StazOn on their photopolymer stamps. it doesn't bother me. It'll stain your stamps, which is true enough, but I don't worry about that too much because I can use my Stays On cleaner and get most of it off. And because I have a sink close by, I'm just trying to line this up pretty close. Because I have a sink close by in my crafting space, I can rinse the Stays On cleaner off pretty easily. All right, so let's see how, and that didn't show up at all. Showed up down here, but I don't feel like any of it lifted on here. We might have to just see if, oh, I have an idea. Let me clean this off. I'll just put some of my Stays On cleaner on there quick. Because that washi tape is kind of slick on top, I'm guessing that's why it doesn't want to hang on to this ink. I'm almost done. Sorry about the delay. All right, so my stamp is going to be kind of brown here. I have another idea though. We're going to stamp our cardstock and put the washi tape on top of it. See if I can get that to work out. And we'll do that just with our regular memento again. Let's see how this works. So we'll put this on here. And again, I should have gotten my Stampin' Pearson mat on there, but hopefully it'll be okay. Close enough. Close enough to just give this a try. Let's see. Maybe not. This is not an exact science. I'm going to have to do some more experimentation with this, I think, and report back. So that did work. It's a little challenging to get the design to line up with the stamp, but hopefully you can see so here I didn't have these lined up. I was a little crooked. These were lined up pretty good, but then I must have had it shifted. So there's with, like if you look here, there's with it being stamped, and here's without it being stamped with the extra stamp to outline those images. This has got some outline. I think it does help define the designs. So I'll play with that some more and we'll see what works and what doesn't. All right. The other thing we could probably do is put Stays On a clear sheet and put a clear sheet right over the top of that. But it is what it is. So let's keep going. Let's keep moving. So I am going to use, I think, the white. And we're going to cut this out so we can start putting some of this together. Let me get the die. And that's going to line up here. Hopefully you can see that. So where'd it go? There we go. So this is part of the purple hue strip, and then this is part of the pink side, and this again is part of the purple. So I should have just cut it off at the purple hue, but I got a little extra. Not a big deal. I can still cut these out with a die and use them. let's try to line this up here. This is really pretty. Now you could also just use the washi tape by itself. Let's see how that works. And I'm just going to stagger my plates a little bit here. And all my pieces are falling out, so let's just see how pretty these are. All right, so let's take these. So these are almost like Memories and More pieces. Very pretty though. I don't usually do washi tape, but I saw these and thought they were really pretty. So I'll be playing with this more later, but at least we can kind of get started here with this. And as you can see, my history of being a messy stamper is intact. So we're going to put this here, this here. This will kind of go like so. However, it needs to line up so it's not hanging out. And then once I glue everything together, we will go ahead and trim off that piece. All right, so let's take a look at some of these pieces here and see how we want to put them together. I think those colors look really good together. And I'm just going to kind of like make some just kind of floral arrangement on here. Those are really pretty. These images are just so pretty. Hopefully you can see that. And they have just a little bit of a sheen to them because of the washi tape. So the other thing that this would work with would be, I thought I had, oh, I know, I was going to put a circle image on here for the sentiment, but then I pulled out the Greetings for All Mix and Match. So we could do Sending Sunshine. We could do a Happy Birthday. The Happy Birthday, we'd have to spread the flowers out a little bit more. We could do some thanks. That's pretty big too. There, you can tell I've used some of these. Thankful for You. I kind of like the Sending Sunshine one. It's got a nice bold font on there that kind of layers well with that yellow. So let's go ahead and use that. I'm pretty sure that's Darling Duckling. So let's go ahead and use that. All right. So I am going to glue these. I think what I'll do is I'll start with this one. And I'm just going to put some multi-purpose glue along the edge. Because of how close this is here, I don't want to have it too deep because then I'll have to trim that other layer. A little bit of a shadow, so I'm trying to line that up. And I'm just using these grid lines here to kind of position it. Okay. That works there. And then here we've got quite a bit, so I can put more glue along this edge. And we'll end up gluing the whole thing to the white layer. But I think it'll be better if it's all kind of one piece. So we're going to lay this where it's going to line up here. And that white layer is not going to move, remember, because we've already glued that one down. And I'm just getting this kind of lined up here. And then this piece, I'm going to start up there and attach it there. That'll look good. And then all I need to do is trim this. And if I'd have used maybe my long scissors, that might have worked a little bit better, or my trimmer. But since I'm just putzing around, I didn't really give a lot of forethought to that. All right, so let's go ahead. We wanted that way though, right? Although that would work too. We could do a bunch of the flowers here. And then we'll actually see maybe more of that yellow. It gives us a little bit more space to make a bouquet. I kind of like that. All right, we're going to do that. So let's put this on. And again, not a lot of glue, but I like to have my glue spread out over my whole layer. I just don't like to see things potentially kind of pop up or get loose. And the nice thing with the green glue is it does give you a little bit of wiggle room. So if you don't have it quite lined up where you wanted it, you're able to shift it just a little bit. All right, so this I'm going to put on dimensionals for sure. Some of the flowers we will put on images, and the foliage, I mean on dimensionals, not on images. So let's just get this kind of laid out without taking our backings off and see what pieces we want flat. Like this one I'm going to want flat. I'm pretty sure with that one. All right, so let's put some glue there. And because we've put it on the cardstock, even though the washi tape might be a little slick, the cardstock is not. All right. So let's do some more foliage. Actually, maybe we'll do a smaller piece. And what I'm doing is just kind of covering up the edges like here so that we're only seeing that on one side. And then here I'm going to put some dimensionals along there, just on the top of the flowers, and I'm going to put glue on the bottom so we can layer it out and have some dimension there. So those will lift up there and the flower will be flatter. And we can put these over here. I'm waiting to put the sentiment down last so that I can see where, excuse me, where I want all these other items. So we're just figuring out what looks good at the moment. And then hopefully it will all come together and look like something pretty sweet. Now the other thing is I have some ribbon. I thought maybe this would go good with that. So let's tie a quick bow too, because we'll kind of see how that lines up and how it looks. I just got all kinds of stuff flying out here. My little reverse tweezers, lost my glue. All right. So let's go ahead and make this cute little bow. My little bow maker. Homemade little bow maker. But it makes the best bows. All right. Sometimes I color the ribbon because I think it adds a nice element of color. But I think this one with just the black and white is going to look nice with that sentiment. So let's see about putting a few more. That's kind of the same as that. So let's put this over here, I think. And we're going to raise that up too on a dimensional. So I'm gluing part of it that's going to be by the sentiment so it's nice and flat, because I don't want to have like 2 or 3 or 4 layers. But I do want some added dimension up here. So if that's going to go about there, we can put this kind of like so. And that'll kind of frame those flowers. We'll put a little dimensional on the end here. Got a little crazy with my glue right there. We'll be covering that up though, I think. So that's gonna go there-ish. I might need to put one more little flower there so that I have a flatter place for my sentiment. So that can go there. And then this, I think, will go right by the sunshine. I have glue on my fingers, so it's kind of sticking to me. I think that's probably enough of a bouquet. Maybe that might look good there. Maybe just a little bit more foliage. And then let's go ahead and put our sentiment down. I think it's time. If I can get the backings off. There we go. So this we're going to put here. Maybe we'll go there. We tuck it under the foliage. Some of it's kind of, because I've got a couple of dimensionals in there that are making it pop up a little bit. And I don't want to have just a little piece of the blue, the Azure Afternoon poking through, so I think we'll put it right there. And then there's just a little edge here that I don't like, so I'm going to trim that off. And because those are laser cut, there is sometimes just little nubs where it holds it onto the cardstock that it's cut out of. So let's go ahead and get some glue dots for the bow. And I'm going to put glue down on each side of the knot so that it won't pivot on the knot. It should hold it pretty steady. And then we'll just tuck that up into there. And let's get some gems. Let's see what'll look good. I think we'll just use some of the rhinestones and add some of those on there. Sometimes I color the rhinestones, but I think we'll just leave these kind of plain-ish. And normally I would do 3, but I think I'm going to do 5 on this one. There we go. Extraordinary Flora. So these other pieces then I'm just going to hang on to, and I'll put them on another project. And we'll do more with leftovers. So I think I just want a little bit more shimmer. So this, I should have maybe considered doing an embossing folder on there to give it a little more texture. But I'm just going to put a little Wink of Stella on there, and that'll give it some shimmer. So you won't be able to see that, but I have some Wink of Stella there and just across there, so it gives it just like a little Milky Way of shimmer. All right, so that's our Extraordinary Flora for tonight. Let me know what you think. If you like it, go ahead and give me a like. If you haven't subscribed to my page, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe. And then if you hit the notifications, you can find out when I go live. I usually go live a little after 11 p.m. Central Time. So Eastern, that would be closer to midnight. And then as we get out to the West Coast, it's going to be more like 9 o'clock-ish. So hopefully this is something that interests you and can inspire you. I will post a picture on my Facebook page as well. And I'll work with these pieces too, and do a little more figuring out how I can get those outlines to line up a little bit better. Maybe it's just I need to be more patient. So that's what I have for you tonight. The Extraordinary Flora, featuring the washi tape that I didn't have before. And until next time, happy crafting.